I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a tax increment reinvestment zone number 1. Today is Tuesday, March 11th. It's 5:33. We're at the City Council chambers. Thanks everybody for making time to be here. With that, if everyone would please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we'll ask Ms. Ayala to help us with roll call.
Mr. Justin Heather,
Here.
Mr. Jesus Esparza,
Present.
Mr. Francisco Mata,
Present.
Ms. Vanessa Guerra,
She is excused or absent.
Mr. Chairman Jose Ceballos,
Here.
Mr. Wilfredo Martinez,
Here.
Mr. Juan Caballero.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Motion to excuse Ms. Guerra. Second. Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, so we're on to citizens' comments. Item 4. Citizens are required to fill out a card, witness card, no later than 5:45 p.m. Those can be found here on location. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Anybody here to make any? No one has signed up. I don't see anybody here to make to make citizen comments. Okay, moving on to item 5, minutes, approval of minutes for February 19, 2025. Board, those are in your packet and were sent to you via email.
Move to approve as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve as presented. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None. Motion passes. We're on to presentation items, discussion only items. This is item 6, financial workshop, presentation of financial statements. Mr. Mata is going to lead us in that presentation. He's put in a significant amount of time. I want to thank him for doing that and bringing us up to date on our status. Did I leave mine there?
I'm gonna just
Yeah, pull that.
yeah,
You can pull
because
that.
this one's a
Sorry.
little chunky. One second. All right. It's gonna be short, sweet, and down to the point. All right, Francisco Mata for the record, Finance Director for the City of Laredo. So this is your Downtown TIRZ 1 financial position presentation. This is your operating unaudited statement of revenues and expenditures. Year to date, our amended budget was to $864,000. Year to date, position is 938,043. That's what we currently have for the operating. Now, I've highlighted in yellow the 88,000 is what would be remaining for us to operate for materials and supplies and any contractual services for the rest of the year on any of the upcoming projects. Any questions on that? This is your breakdown of your 2021 bond. So we have an amended budget of revenues 2.3 million, total expenditures of 2.6, puts you in a position of about negative 297, but the year to date is actually 1.059 is what we're currently standing. If we take that 1.59, there's $9,000 that are buried in there, but the true number is 1.05. I'll take you to the next slide, which is your capital outlay projects. and this is where it makes more sense as reconciling with what we have currently going on. Our projects, the total amount of projects that have been awarded or been obligated are in the range of $2.3 million. You can see those. We have Zaragoza streets. We do have a PO for that. The wayfinding signage and the IT street sign, which we also have a PO for that, are the awarded ones. The funding source for those, again, the 221 CO will pay 1.1 million of that, and CVB has made 80,000 of that available. Okay, out of that, of those projects, the Zaragoza Street, 697 of that has been disbursed already. So we're about 86% into that project. Okay. So total combined estimated expenses for those, the funding sources for those projects that we have awarded, you're looking at a range of about 1.2 million. Okay. If you look at the total 2.25 total revenues coming in from the bond and the 80,000 from CVB, that puts us in at about 2.2 million. We subtract that from the cost, it leaves us comfortably at around 1.05 on that 2021 CO that's available for us to spend. The city has graciously made available from their 2024 CO 1.5 million for downtown expenditures, okay? Brick and mortar. So that puts us between the 2021 and the 2024, puts us at a comfortable 2.5 available for capital outlay projects. I understand we have proposed improvements of 2.5, so we should be okay to start looking into those. All right. Do you have any questions on that?
The only thing to add is where those proposed improvement costs came from. They came from probable costs that are very preliminary from KCI, essentially for the board to know, taking the Zaragoza numbers and basically using those to project Iturbide and San Agustin. There's alternates, pavers, concrete base, all different options. So just for the board to know that until you actually put that out, you don't really know what that number is going to look like. But I basically took the midway point of what KCI gave us on those improvements.
What I do want, I know we have proposed improvements of 2.5, but I do want it's important that we highlight those 938. Now we currently have debt service of 1.5, 156,000, which are paying for that 2.2 million CO. So based on these numbers, I would comfortably say that being conservative, we can probably bond out about 1.5 every other year. So just to keep that in mind.
Without using the capital set aside?
Correct. Any further questions on that?
Any questions? Like everybody here is a finance banker and a CPA accountant, a budget officer. No questions?
No questions. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and forward this data to you guys so that we further assess and we can talk more about it next meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for putting it together and updating it in that summary. I think it made a lot of sense.
I guess, Mr. Ceballos, my question would be more towards the board as to, for example, we know we have some bonding capacity. Do we have already some projects that we're considering for, issuing additional debt, or is the board trying to use the money that we have to finance some of these projects going forward?
Okay, so the answer is yes. There's more projects that when we first started conceptualizing projects years back, there's many more projects. Obviously, Iturbide, generally speaking, is probably going to be done once we're done with it, or once we actually implement what's projected. But we left Zaragoza, the turn between Santa Ursula basically to Flores. We left that kind of without any improvement. So there's sidewalk, at least on one side or both sides, that need to be addressed. We also know that on Salinas, we only took a little section, 3 blocks. We know there's more. the caution that I've placed before for the board is, we know how the bid came in for Zaragoza. It is, very high. Even though we're using those same numbers to project out for the next two projects, I would caution us until we actually get those into the books to get ahead of ourselves, and jump into another project. I know that's not your question, but there are more projects. It's just making sure that we understand the implications of, cost implications. I think that Zaragoza may help encourage other contractors to bid, because there weren't any real surprises that were, I know Andreas here and Edward, they were out there regularly helping troubleshoot the minor surprises. We didn't get hit with major surprises out there, which could happen in another project, so that would be the only thing.
I will add to, just word of caution. So on COs, we do have to spend on the third year. By the third year, we should be already either spent or already have projects worked on. We're on third year, year 3 of that 2021 CO, and we got a nice chunk that we need to start moving on these projects that we haven't been awarded. Okay, so
Right.
food for thought.
Yeah.
So what happens if we don't spend it by then?
So any interest earnings that we, because we are allowed to invest on COs and whatnot, but all that interest goes away. So, it'll be potential, as you can see here, interest earnings. You see that? All that goes away
It goes away to who?
to the IRS. You get taxed on it.
Oh, okay.
All right. So if we want to take
Tax.
advantage of that, again, we use that as leverage to borrow against COs, the 938,000. But if it goes away, then that's that much less interest.
So is it expenditure or obligation that would protect us?
Is it expenditure?
Is it an expenditure requirement, or just obligating through a contract that would protect?
No, it's an expenditure. So it's like it goes away.
So we ought to bid out as soon as possible.
Right.
Right.
With
I mean, it's
consideration.
you break even. You just don't get to keep what you've earned, the interest you
Right,
earned.
the interest earned.
It's just it goes
Yeah,
away.
we don't want to give that
But
up.
we don't want to give that away. So we need to start getting working on those projects. All right.
In addition, if I may, in addition to that, what happens is when the rating agencies look at the city to rate us,
Yes.
they also look at how much debt we've had. So we've issued debt and we're not spending it, then that causes has an effect on our rating agencies as well. So we want to be able, and that's kind of where I was alluding with my question is, if we have projects, we need to start designing those projects, putting some money aside for that, and then as we see the construction of those projects, maybe in year 2, that's when we want to start the financing mechanism so that money comes in and we can construct as soon as we get those monies in from the bond issuance or any other financing mechanism that we might have available out there.
Right.
Is a 3-year requirement tied to the fiscal year or calendar?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
The 3-year term that you're referring to, is that tied to the
It's in the
city's fiscal?
maturity of the issuing of the note. So wherever that falls, yes.
Do we know what that is?
It's tied back to the arbitrage. There's a calculation that we do on an annual basis for arbitrage. Because interests have gone up, now it's more prevalent that we might be meeting those arbitrage requirements that are set up by the Internal Revenue Service. So when they do those calculations, depending if we go beyond those 3 years, those arbitrages keep getting higher and higher. So we want to be able to spend, our financial consultant recommends that we spend the money by year number 3.
Year number 3.
So when does the 3-year up on the 221 COs?
So the CO was issued on.
It was in the fall.
It was issued on funded August of 2021. So I would suspect as of August 2024.
And it's actually as a totality of that bond, right? That bond package, not just TIRZ
Correct.
bond money. Okay. Very good.
Right.
All right, so I guess the takeaway is to get with it on the next phase,
progress.
the next segment. I think that's what the engineer calls it. To get it advertised.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not for action, but just for the board to keep that in mind. We're gonna do status updates next. on a number of items. We're gonna roll through this pretty quickly. We did cover much of this, last month in detail. Zaragoza Street improvements, there really isn't, much else to report. I don't believe the brick veneer and the stone cap is in place yet, so that stands still the same way.
You still waiting for it, or?
We're still waiting, correct? You may have something different, but
Hi, good afternoon. Andrea Alejandra with KCI Technologies. They did send us their shop drawings and we approved the dimensions and all the quantities. So we're still waiting on that 4 to 6 week period that they had told us originally that it would take to produce all of the materials. So they have not arrived yet.
yeah, so, okay. Any other updates on that, on item Zaragoza Street?
That's the only thing that we're missing for them to physically put there. So we're just waiting for that to arrive.
Okay. I know the landscape architect was here, Rick. I didn't list it as an individual, but any update there? Well, actually, it is on the topic there.
Yes, Rick Solis with Able City. We reached out to Cecilia with MP Studio, and she indicated to us today that she would have a draft report ready for us next week. So we'll be sending that out as soon as we receive it.
We're expecting to switch some of the vegetation that's out there, right?
I'm not sure. So she's
You're
looking
making
at it.
suspenseful.
Yeah. I mean, when we walked it, and I guess I can provide a small update. When we walked it, and Justin, you were there walking with us, they did comment on the oak trees that given how they're planted in the sidewalks, they generally don't grow as tall as if it were sitting in the middle of a park, right? And there's ways to train them and look at them and do some different things, but they were gonna take a look at it. They did look at the magnolias. Those they probably will recommend to replace, but they were gonna look at those for us. We did walk on Zaragoza, up, I guess block 1 between, the tack room and the bridge. They thought the trees that were there in place were okay, but they were gonna give us some recommendations. And then one of the things that we talked about was those 2 existing trees that are there. They seemed to indicate that they were like salvageable, like that they just needed to be cleaned up and to get an arborist out here to really look at them. There's a lot of ways to reshape that tree to make it. They're of the opinion that it's lived there for a long time. It's still growing. I would be ashamed to like take it out. Was their position, but they will give us their comments on the report.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Rick. On Zaragoza, on the AP Zaragoza Street improvements, I have not seen any movement on that. I don't know if Andrea, if you have anything different.
Yes, AEP sent us the location of where they would like to put the poles now. So that is currently a discussion between us and them to make sure that they're putting them somewhere that works for us with this new layout and that we don't have to interrupt a lot of our new stuff that they're going to put a new pole in that location. So we're in communication with them.
Okay, so we'll know more next month probably, right?
Yes, they send us their new locations. We got back with them to make sure they're not in the way and like the ADA compliance is still there given where they're going to place the new poles. So we can give you more information during this time period between the next board meeting as well.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
I do want to add something to that. I did talk to Edward, relaying to him about coordinating with the trees that are underneath those wires. And what he indicated to me is that AEP said those are 50-foot poles and they're buried 7 feet into the ground. So basically from ground level to the top of the pole, you're at about 43 feet. He said that the AEP lines are usually mounted 35 feet and above, and that the communication lines really should be anywhere from 2 or 3 feet below that. So I think we'll talk with AEP and with AT&T and Spectrum and all of them to say, okay, look, you guys got to mount above 30 feet. So if we can use that 30-foot number as a sort of a benchmark on how we pick the vegetation and moving forward, I think we should all keep that in mind as we get the information from the landscape architect.
Okay, thank you. All right, you've got the update on the wayfinding signage next.
Yes. So we tried to get a committee meeting set up before this meeting. I think we needed for CVB to be there, and I don't know if some of them are out this week. So, so we have a meeting tentatively scheduled for the 19th. I believe CVB is going to be there, community development, economic development. I think Miriam might send someone. We'll have someone from engineering as well. I don't know if anyone from the board is going to be able to attend that
I'll
meeting.
try to be there.
So so we'll be talking about the It Street sign and the wayfinding. I do want to give a small update on the wayfinding. If I can open my. So, obviously, we've been talking about the wayfinding, and sort of the big item is this map that we've sort of developed. We've been working with our graphic designer over the last few weeks to come back and forth, coming with some different options for that map. I think the last time we showed you sort of a framework of what we're looking at. This is what we had before, and then so she's developed these little icons for like the cathedral and the Plaza Theater. She did some for City Hall and the outlet shops and St. Peter's. And so she gave us a couple of options with regards to how that might look, different colorways. But essentially that's more or less kind of the framework of what we're thinking those maps would look like. They're colorful. They sort of grab your attention, and they try not to be boring, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. We also have a different color scheme option. So those are kind of, it could be any number of colors. If I had to give a preference, I probably would go with this one just because I think it's easier to read. But again, we wanted to kind of just show you, I don't know if you want us to take this to the committee to get a final, well, we probably need to get CVB and everybody to give a final approval, but I just wanted to show you more or less the framework of what we have. And if you guys have any comments, we can certainly pass those along to CVB and everybody else when we meet with them next week.
Yeah, so, I'll be part of that committee, so I'll make my comments, but the hotel and the museum both museums would be nice to add.
Okay.
If the board has any other icons that they would like to add, this is the opportunity between now and the next meeting, or actually before the next meeting. Can you share this presentation, Rick, with the board?
The bank, don't you think the bank, IBC Bank should be there too? Or the hotel, the bank?
So you're talking about the museum next to La Posada, right?
And the heritage.
The only other, maybe Center for the Arts, probably we should also have a little icon for that as well. Any other comments?
Maybe Webb County.
Yeah, I agree. Webcam, courthouse.
The obvious one, we're missing, I don't know if the La Posada is missing there. That thing's been sitting there just as long as the cathedral. So.
Yeah, so we'll get the hotel and the museums on there. Again,
Yeah, in fairness to the artists, it is a work. Every icon is an artwork, right? So
yeah, and that's fine. The artist that we're working with is really good. She did these really quickly.
it is very good.
And I like that she sort of abstracts them in a kind of a playful way, so it's not so rigid. So I think I did notice that this "You Are Here" is in the wrong place. It should be on this corner where we're going to put the sign, but we'll work on that. So we'll have essentially every monument sign will have the same one, but with the star in a different place. And I don't know if you think that needs to be bigger, but we can talk about that at the committee meeting next week.
All right. Okay, so send anything that you all think would like to be added, to send it over to Rick.
Yeah.
Next
So
steps.
again, just next steps, just we'll meet with the committee. Also with the committee, we'll be getting the final comments on the street sign, the costs that we discussed the last time, and then talk about the street poles. And once we get that resolved, we'll be sending all that to the fabricators so that they can get going. And they're all waiting at this point. They're itching to get going. So.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. The only update for the TASA program for Salinas improvements is that I understand the city is now planning to take that, city staff take that to to city council, the draft document, which has come before you all a couple of times. So we look forward to that getting approved. March 17th is what I understand is the next city council meeting. And that will also, I have not seen the draft of the agreement come back since we circulated initially, but I imagine that that's also going to go to council as a pair to the actual advance funding agreement for that project. Id Street Monument, I think Rick covered that update. Murals program, Ms. Castilla and Ms. Brunedas did send me advised me they weren't going to be here today, but they did send me an update. They are going to work to come back next month with two artists that are interested. I believe both of these artists were part of the initial solicitation, and they are entertaining now. They sent the 3 properties they shared that are city-owned properties, and they received approval from the city manager's office to potentially put a mural on each of those. So review all the board recalls. We opened it up for a number of months for the private sector to continue or to explore pursuing a mural, and there hasn't been much response. So Ms. Castilla and Ms. Pruneda are going to come back next month with a recommendation to put at least two in 2 properties. And the property addresses, you're going to hear them when they come back to you, but they are 802 Grant, which is Grant in Santa Ursula. It's a historical home that is, I don't believe it's occupied. 1002 Hidalgo, which is at the corner of Hidalgo and San Agustin. And then 1203 Houston, which is essentially next to Hamilton, the old hotel, Hamilton Hotel. So anyway, they asked me to give you all that update, and you can expect that in some form of action item next month.
But we do have a mural in progress, right? The first one?
Yes, so the first mural, and actually, thank you for reminding me, because that's part of the update too. The first payment that went out to that artist as well. So he is supposed to start, if not at the end of this week, next week. I haven't driven past, but that mural it should be going up.
Okay.
And that was part of what they were mentioning to me, that initial deposit went out to that artist. And that is at the corner of Iturbide and San Agustin. Questions?
Are we, I have a question if I may. Are we so stuck on the mural per se for the artist, or have we explored, I know I brought it up at some point, the canvas option?
When we first took off with this project, it had an option for storefront art. I don't know if it was canvas, it was boards, it was going to be a number of things. So the board decided to put out the murals first and come back. If you want to bring that back as a solicitation to invite, we can certainly do that.
Well, because it seemed more so because of the negotiation from the property owners, they may be more inclined towards having a canvas.
Something that's temporary.
That's temporary, or temporary, if you will, but removable, if you will, and also that plays into if the property gets sold, well, we just remove the canvas, and if it meets the square footage of the space, you can repurpose that canvas in another property. So
I agree.
I
agree. So I'll add it to the agenda next month. If you want to think about how you want to put that out, beyond that, and we can write it up then in a way that it works. Okay. Any other comments on real? All right. project plan, financing plan, there is no movement on that. I really haven't had any action to update the original plan. Everybody knows that the plan with that is to update the 2017 version. Item H, Webb County's participation on TIRZ number 1. We reported last month as well that we are going to be meeting with council about our plan and our approach to go back to Webb County with our request for them to participate. Like, they've already voted on wanting to participate. It's just a matter of working out the terms. So 7I, TIRZ administrative and technical capacity. That's kind of we covered that last month. I think it was well discussed. I don't need to go further into that. On action items, 8, discussion and possible action to authorize and seek City of Laredo approval for placement of 2 murals in city-owned properties and authorize the Economic Development Department to solicit artists for such locations and return for proposed funding amounts. Motion to table that item for next month.
Second.
Seconded, been seconded by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? There can be none anyway. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you. Item 9, discussion and possible action to approve invoices submitted by Able City and KCI Technologies as presented. I don't think we got any, right? There's none in the packet, and I don't think I saw it. Okay, so no action on item 9. Item 10, discussion and possible action to approve proposed downtown wayfinding signs, map, graphic, and any final changes. You just heard that they're still in the works, so this item will be deferred to next month. And I think we should be arriving at a final next month, right? Rick, do you know if everything else is in production? Are the signs themselves being fabricated?
That I don't know. I can find out.
Okay, because I think we can move ahead with everything else. I would hope that they're already in the works.
Yes.
Okay, we'll find out. Any comments or, I guess there's no action on that item, so, without any other business listed, motion to adjourn at 6:05.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.